But joining us now is Andrew Weissmann, former senior prosecutor on the Mueller investigation, and NYU law professor Melissa Murray. And they are co-authors of the terrific book, best-selling book, The Trump Indictments, the Historic Charging Documents with Commentary, which is just an indispensable guidebook as we go through all of this. To both of you, congratulations. Andrew, this really does bring this back to the process that you were both experienced with as lawyers. Andrew, with all of your years as a prosecutor, and those of us as citizens who've been through it. But it's never happened before with a former president, and certainly not one as polarizing, let's face it, as Donald Trump. Andrew?
Yeah, well, you know, that really gets to why Melissa and I wrote this book, which is what is happening is so unique in this country. It's not unique for the rest of the world, which has had trials like this and has managed to hold political leaders to account, which we address in the book. But it's unique for us. And as law professors, this is what we do day in and day out, which is try and give tools to our students to understand what's going on. And now it is so important for the public to understand what is happening in the criminal justice system. And the point of the book was to give those tools to the readers, and they can make up their own mind, but at least they will have the facts. They will have an understanding of how the law works, and some of the essentially a guidebook to help them as this trial unfolds.
And Andrew and Melissa, I just want to give you and our viewers a little pointer here, because we're watching a split screen. They've taken a short 10-minute recess. Donald Trump has walked out of the courtroom, according to the pool reporters who were inside. So there is the possibility that he might come to the camera. So we just want to tell you that you see a lot of activity behind you on the other side of that screen. Melissa, talk to me about how long this jury selection process might take, given how it is going so far, given the numbers of people who are saying that they, right off the bat, could not be impartial. And then they haven't even gotten to the case where the lawyers get involved in terms of their challenges.
No, that's exactly right, Andrea. We've seen that Judge Merchan has suggested that this might take a number of weeks to complete. That's perhaps unsurprising in a case as high profile as this one, where, as we've noted, it's unlikely that any of the jurors are going to come with this with a completely blank slate, having known nothing about Donald Trump or the facts that are the underlying facts in this case. So they're going to have to go through a lot of jurors, prospective jurors, in order to impanel 12 and to get to 6 alternates. But this is the most important part of the trial, to my mind, for both sides. Trials are basically about storytelling, and the question of who your audience is critically important. Both sides are going to be looking for jurors who will be receptive to their slant on this particular story. And so sussing out what these jurors are about is critically important. It's why we have that 42-question questionnaire. It's why we're going to have more questions and follow-up of these jurors, and why ultimately, as you say, each side will have an opportunity to strike for cause and peremptorily the various jurors that they don't want on this panel.
And let's talk about that for a moment as well, Andrew. As a prosecutor, some of those questions can be so revealing about what kind of, media do you read and watch, just sort of that whole panoply of questions. Your colleague, your friend Joyce Vance mentioned one last night that she used to use as a prosecutor. What bumper stickers do you have on your car? Tell us what that might reveal.
Sure. Well, one thing that's notable is that for a lot of the viewers who have served on civil and criminal juries, this is going to seem unduly intrusive, and this is an unusually sort of careful process and searching process in terms of these questions. So hence your question about what bumper stickers, or a typical question is sort of, where do you get your news? What papers do you read? What podcasts do you listen to? What do you stream? And then obviously more sort of direct questions like, are you, for instance, affiliated with some group that's aligned with law enforcement or aligned with the Oath Keepers or Proud Boys or MAGA events. But those are all trying to get at, as Melissa said, both for cause challenges, but also to give information to strike people who have such strongly held views that they're not going to be confident that they can put those aside and just base their verdict on the facts in the courtroom and the laws given to them by Judge Merchan. What the prosecutor is really worried about is someone trying to sneak on the jury who is going to be sort of a holdout and hang the jury, and because of some preconceived view. And obviously the defense would worry about that on the prosecution side. So that's why you have this, in a high profile case, you have an unusually searching jury selection process.
And Melissa, fact check what the former president said today, which is that, the alleged payment to Stormy Daniels was just a legal expense.
Well, I mean, there are legal expenses. Legal expenses tend to be service for services rendered, actually doing legal work. I don't think that many in the legal profession would, if they are to believe the allegations in the indictment, that paying off a former paramour in order to buy her silence while you were on the campaign trail is a verifiable legal expense. But that is the crux of what we're going to hear as this trial unfolds. And individual jurors will have the opportunity to assess for themselves whether when they paid their lawyer, it was for things like paying for the silence of a former mistress or paramour, or if it were actually for completing legal work, like representing them in court or filing a deed or executing a will of something of that nature. So I think the individual jurors are going to have that opportunity. It won't just be Donald Trump explaining. It'll be a chance for each juror to determine whether or not they believe the story that he is selling.
Hey everyone, MSNBC has a new and improved app. You'll get real-time alerts and analysis, live blogs, in-depth essays, video highlights, and the best 2024 election coverage. Download the new MSNBC app. Here's how to do it. You tap on the App Store on your phone. You hit search on the bottom right corner. You type in MSNBC. You click on the MSNBC app. You click on Get or the cloud icon and enjoy it.